little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar.
Alright then, now in this video I'm going to talk about the top 5-ish objections that are here to Bitcoin, and I'm going to thoroughly debunk them. Now the first one that I hear from people, my friends included, is that they're staying away from Bitcoin because people buy drugs with it, or people do illegal activities with it, etc. And because of that, they think that Bitcoin itself is immoral or unethical. Now I assume they are referring to Silk Road back in the day. And I remember Silk Road when it was about. I remember hearing rumours about this underground dark web eBay where you could buy whatever you wanted and people would just post it to you. You could buy full kilos worth of uncut heroin, you could buy AK-47s, you could buy stolen cars, anything you wanted or anything that anybody would want, you could buy on there and they'd just deliver it to you. And I remember being fascinated by this place. I remember thinking, how is that even possible? How is that even legal? Well, I don't think it was legal, but how is that happening? And they were basically using Bitcoin to buy all these things because the transactions didn't have to go through a bank. And I remember reading just a few days ago actually that about, at its peak, 95% of all Bitcoin transactions were going through Silk Road. This was around like 2012, 2013-ish. Well, what I'd say to that is there's nothing intrinsically immoral or illegal or unethical about the currency itself. People buy drugs with cash, but it's not a criticism of cash. People buy drugs with all kinds of stuff. You could buy drugs with gold or whatever, but it's not a criticism of the currency itself. So that argument doesn't really make sense. And if you look at it at the currency itself, you could argue that cash and the fiat is a lot more immoral and a lot more unethical at its core than Bitcoin, which is a lot more ethical because you don't have a centralized group of people that have the power to just print more out of thin air. Bitcoin is completely open source, open ledger. You can't counterfeit it. You can't just print more out of thin air. And if you were going to do any dodgy dealings, then Bitcoin probably isn't the best bet anyway, because it's pseudonymous, which means you use a pseudonym. i.e., if I've got my Bitcoin wallet and it gets linked to me, people can log on and see where I've been sending, how much I've been sending, that kind of thing. Whereas cash is completely anonymous. So for that kind of dodgy dealing, cash is better. So that criticism that I hear most, that Bitcoin is used for buying drugs online, that kind of thing, doesn't make sense. Now the next objection that I hear is that Bitcoin is a scam. So I'm staying away because it's a scam. Well, I think there are scam coins out there. You know, loads of these meme coins that just any old Tom, Dick or Harry can just put online and then rug pull, just take all of their money out of it and the value goes to nothing. They are scams, 100%, you know. But just because scam coins exist doesn't mean that all coins are scams. That's a bit of a fallacy there with that thinking. Yes, scam coins exist, but not all of them are. And I think Bitcoin isn't. I think that the fiat system itself is more of a scam, more of a Ponzi scheme than Bitcoin. In fact, it is a scam. As I've said before, if you've got a central power that can just print money backed by nothing out of thin air, and every time they do that, it devalues your savings, that's a scam. It's backed by nothing whatsoever other than trust in the banks or power, military power. It's a scam. It's not got any intrinsic value. Now, Bitcoin is verifiable. You cannot counterfeit it. And no matter how much you want more of it, you can't just make it out of thin air, unlike fiat. So to me, that point falls down as well. Now, with the fiat printing press, if you've got a bunch of bankers that have got cronies and mates that have got access to that freshly printed cash at no interest or super low interest, and they can buy assets with that cash, that freshly printed cash, before the inflation hits, then that's almost like a crony, what's even the word, nepotism. Is basically, if you're an elite at the top and you've got access to the printing press, you benefit more than the plebs at the bottom, because by the time that the cash filters down to the plebs, the price has already been inflated and devalued, and we can do less with it. So it's very centralized and corrupt. So that's the scam. Now, Bitcoin is open to anybody. Anybody can mine it, anybody can buy it. Everybody's got the exact same opportunity to stack it, whether you are an institution or just an individual. And if there's more demand, the supply doesn't go up. There's only a limited, perfectly finite supply. So it's a lot fairer game than the fiat system. So no, Bitcoin isn't the scam. Fiat is the scam. Now, the next objection that I hear is that Bitcoin is a waste of energy. Well, it uses energy, yes. It takes a lot of energy to support the blockchain. But all systems use energy, whether you're mining gold or running the Visa system or anything like that, they all take energy. Now, I would argue that Bitcoin, because of its deflationary nature, i.e. every 4 years, the Bitcoin reward for the miners halves, so they get half as much every 4 years, it incentivizes the most efficient energy on Earth. So it incentivizes greener, cleaner energy use. You can't be wasteful when you're mining Bitcoin. And there's already all over the world popping up Bitcoin mining stations on oil rigs that are using flared gas, which would have otherwise been wasted. They're using that super cheap flared gas. Instead of just blasting it up into the air and burning it off, they're using it to mine Bitcoin. I was reading, I think it was Ecuador, they're using geothermic power from their volcano, and they're harnessing that energy, which was just there. It was just a volcano. They're using that to now mine Bitcoin. So Bitcoin mining incentivizes the cleanest, greenest energy production on Earth. Because if you don't have the cheapest, greenest energy, you're going to go out of business. You know, I wouldn't be able to just set up a Bitcoin miner in my house and plug it into the grid, because it wouldn't be worth it for me. I would have to seek out the cheapest option, which would be something green like solar or that kind of thing. So no, Bitcoin doesn't waste energy. It incentivizes the cheapest, most efficient energy due to its deflationary nature. So that's been debunked as well. Now the next objection I hear is that because Bitcoin is not tangible, it means that it's not valuable. When in actual fact, the pounds on most of our bank accounts are also intangible. Intangible? Untangible? Intangible. Not tangible. And they're not backed by anything tangible either. So it's not really a critique. Also, one of the pros, one of the advantages of Bitcoin is the fact that it is fully digital and fully not tangible. If I wanted to move to Australia with £10 million worth of Bitcoin, I wouldn't have to ship gold or go through any banks or anything like that. I could literally just get on a plane with my seed phrase in my head and fly over there, and then when I land, I have access to my coins. You know, I can literally travel with it in my head. Or if I wanted to send it to somebody over there, I could send them all of those coins in a few minutes for a few quid. So it's a benefit of Bitcoin being not tangible. It means it's perfectly portable, more portable than any other currency we've ever had. So to me, that's not a disadvantage. Also, it's easily verifiable. You can check that your coins are legit by going onto the blockchain and verifying them. It requires proof of work rather than any trust in, you know, a bank, or trust that you've got gold which hasn't been debased or anything like that. You can verify it. You can verify it yourself. So to me, that's not a valid critique either. Now, I also had somebody say to me the other day that they're not buying Bitcoin because they're worried about an EMP. Well, yeah. I mean, any of these catastrophic arguments, for example, global EMP, global nuclear fallout, or, you know, meteorite attack, or, you know, aliens invading, or that kind of thing. They're all a little bit far-fetched. And if that's putting you off Bitcoin, well, whatever. Having said that, I think that Bitcoin is still more versatile in that scenario than the fiat system. Because let's say we have a global EMP. The entire world's network goes down. I mean, first of all, if it goes down for an hour, the entire global grid, that would cause so much chaos in itself. But say it goes down for a year, I mean, that's, you can't even possibly really fathom it. So many people would just die. It would be like borderline extinction level event. So at that point, you've got more things to worry about than Bitcoin. Having said that, because of Bitcoin's decentralized nature, if just 1 or 2 nodes come back online after that year, then the entire network is offline. Is back online. The fiat system, like the MasterCard data center or the Visa data center, etc., if one of those goes down, then the whole thing's down. And if one of those gets hit by a meteor, then that's it, it's gone. But the blockchain itself survives offline, and then as soon as it comes back online, the entire blockchain is back, if even just 1 or 2 nodes come back online. And currently there's like tens of thousands of nodes all over the world. So because of that decentralized nature of Bitcoin, it's even more versatile than the fiat system. And if for some reason the entire global grid goes down, the internet goes down forever. Well, we're back in the Stone Ages anyway, and people will be trading a bar of gold for a tin of beans. So, you know, it doesn't really matter. And the last one I hear is the quantum threat. Now, I don't know much about this because this is more on the techie side, but this is basically saying that if quantum computing ever becomes a thing, which as far as I know is many, many decades away, and it's still basically a science fiction idea at this stage, then the quantum computing will be able to easily crack the hash of the blockchain. And then everybody's coins will just go, they'll be robbed, and Satoshi's coins will be robbed, and all of that, it would cause so much chaos, and that would be it, end of Bitcoin. Well, how I see that is, if that happens, then even nuclear launch codes will be cracked, and every single bank and Visa and MasterCard and every single computer network on Earth will also be cracked all at the same time. So it's not a threat exclusive to Bitcoin. Also, just like when computers came around first time, and then viruses came around, it was not long after that that antivirus software came around. You know, so there was a solution to it. As soon as the technology existed, the virus software, the antivirus software solution was found pretty quick. And there we go. And nowadays we live in a world with computer viruses, but also antivirus. So if there is a quantum hack, that same technology will be used to quantum solve. And then everything will just be upgraded to this new anti-quantum software encryption. And there we go. The whole blockchain gets upgraded. So I can't see that really being a threat either, and I still see that as kind of a cataclysmic sci-fi event in the realm of, you know, the Earth getting struck by a meteorite and that kind of thing. Now, those are the top objections to Bitcoin that I hear, and to me, they don't seem that critical. If you can think of any others, let me know, because I'm interested. And yeah, that'll do. Let me know what you think. See you later.
Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar.